She lived alone in an abandoned ranch for 12 years until the amazing truth was finally revealed. 12 years echo in the silence of the desolate ranch, where Evelyn works her fingers into the cracked soil like they were part of the earth itself. Each sunrise, she burdens herself with the ghosts of a vibrant past, long gone, the laughter of her children, the warmth of family gatherings, all erased by tragedy. But as she kneels amidst the overgrown grapevines, now just wild weeds tangled with discord, something stirs within her. Could there be a way to resurrect not just the land, but herself? The attic is a sanctuary of dust, where cobwebs cradle conversations unsaid. When Evelyn's hand brushes the surface of a crude wooden trunk, the temptation is too strong. She pries it open, and as dust motes swirl in the faint light, the journals tumble out, pages filled with her father's dreams for a vineyard that would thrive, a legacy left untended like the land she now fights to reclaim. The ink, though faded, ignites a fire in her chest. Hope flows through her veins, mingling awkwardly with the bitterness of abandonment by her own family, who chose to distance themselves from the very soil they once cherished. "Am I a fool for thinking I can bring this place back?" she asks the empty walls, her voice fracturing in the stillness. Doubt gnaws at her like a starving animal. She remembers the mocking laughter of her relatives, huddled together in their city homes while she stubbornly clung to this land. To them, she had become an outsider, an unworthy caretaker of a family legacy they turned their backs on. Even as bitterness festers, a reckless determination blooms. This land means more than crops. It means confronting her demons. But can she bear the weight of her father's dreams while battling the scorn of those she once called kin? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Each entry she reads deepens the anguish, her father's exuberance crashing into her present stagnation. Can lost dreams ever be reclaimed? With every word, Evelyn feels the chasm between her and what she yearns for widening. The confrontations with her estranged family weigh heavily on her. They arrive, disdain in their eyes, ready to mock her endeavors. "You're not worthy," they sneer, reminders of her inadequacies falling like rain on parched soil. Evelyn's heart throbs, feeling the surge of defiance. Yet in the depths of her resolve, seeds of doubt sprout. Would the family she lost ever acknowledge her fight? Just when the stakes seem insurmountable, she uncovers a startling secret buried in her father's notes. A hidden relative who holds dominion over the vineyard and its legacy. Confusion battles within her, igniting a cyclone of uncertainty. Should she seek this new ally and risk the fragile ground she's just begun to tread? Or cling stubbornly to the past, a past filled with pain and rejection? Defined by her solitude for so long, Evelyn stands edge to edge with her destiny, grappling with an identity woven through despair and resilience. Anguish tightens around her, every moment urging her closer to an unthinkable decision. A clash that will ripple through the very fabric of her existence, with the shadows of her family lurking ever closer. The soft light of dawn filtered through the grimy attic window, illuminating the scattered fragments of Evelyn's father's dreams. She sat amid the open journals, the words swirling in her mind like autumn leaves caught in a warm breeze. He had envisioned a thriving vineyard, not just a source of income, but a family haven where laughter would echo among the rows of ripening grapes. So far from the reality she was entrenched in, one that felt like a cold embrace of despair, she questioned if she could ever transform such visions into reality. As days rolled on, the heavy tomes of her father's aspirations weighed on her spirit. With every entry she absorbed, her breath caught in her throat. The highlighted passages filled her with a mix of exhilaration and dread. Could she truly undertake the challenge that lay before her? The answer, buried deep within her tumultuous heart, screamed that she must. The gnawing fear of failing once more coiled around her, but yearning overshadowed it. Yet she realized that the obstacles were not merely physical. They lay profoundly in her mind, echoing her family's derision, manifesting as self-doubt. Evelyn spent the subsequent weeks doing more than just reading. She started taking tentative steps towards revitalizing the land. The gnarly weeds of the vineyard became her coaches, their stubborn endurance inspiring her newfound resolve. She poured her heart into every uprooting, every planting, feeling herself uncoil from years of sorrow with the entangled roots. The labor was exhausting, but with each dig, she felt the pulse of life return to the forgotten ranch. But doubt remained a contagious specter creeping in through the edges. What would her family say when they learned of her endeavors? Would they come to jeer, or would they stand astounded as she resurrected their heritage? Gradually, the temptation to explore her hidden relatives surfaced, taunting her like a mirage in the desert. Would reaching out mean surrendering herself again to betrayal, or could it represent a lifeline, an opportunity to prove she was worthy? Days turned to weeks, and Evelyn felt a flickering flame of hope steadying into a warm glow. She began to keep a log of her progress, blending her father's visions with her observations. The entries became a mixture of agricultural insights and personal growth, creating a narrative that felt almost playful at times. This journey became not just about tangible growth, but also about healing the fractured pieces of herself. One quiet evening, while reviewing her notes under the golden light of a flickering lamp, she stumbled upon a passage that defined fervor and ambition, qualities she'd stifled for far too long. Suddenly, an idea struck her, not unlike a lightning bolt. It was time to seek this unknown relative. They might hold keys to distant doors, doors that could lead her back to family, or perhaps even to success. Yet a pang of anxiety gnawed at her. Opening this door could crash her newfound stability. Against a backdrop of uncertainty, a decision loomed. Would she reach out to this hidden relative and face the specters of her past? Or would she continue to walk this path alone, redefining her legacy? The heaviness of her thoughts began to shift, a mental storm brewing. Every tick of the clock drew her closer to that impending choice, a decision that would either nurture her growth or unravel the progress she'd carved out of the dirt and shadows. As night enveloped the ranch, her mind raced, the weight of the threshold she stood before pressing down hard against her chest. The time had come to confront her past. Would her revelations about the hidden legacy be the bridge she needed, or just another crack in her already fragile reality? Evelyn sat in the dim light of her attic, pen poised over her journal, paralysis gripping her thoughts. The air was thick with her hesitation, and outside, the shadows of dusk began to lengthen ominously. Each tick of the clock felt like a thunderous echo urging her toward a decision she'd been delaying, a confrontation with the unknown that could either shatter her hard-won stability or pave the way for renewal. The thought of contacting the hidden relative pulled at her, its weight both exciting and terrifying. Who were they? Would they be bitter strangers? Or might they carry pieces of the family she longed to understand? Her mind swirled with scenarios, weaving through possibilities as she tried to formulate a plan. The realization that she was standing at the crossroads of her personal journey seeped into her consciousness. To take that step required more than mere action. It demanded courage, an alive resemblance of the fervor she had unearthed while tending to the vineyard. The connection between her growth and the vines was undeniable. Both were fraught with challenges, yet each seed planted represented hope, a hope that mirrored her own rebirth. She resolved to gather information before making contact. With her father's journals as a guide and her burgeoning courage acting as the fuel, she dove into research mode. The world outside the attic became a kaleidoscope of connections and possibilities, each lead promising a journey toward unveiling her past. There was empowerment in the act of searching, a relay of discovery that gave her a sense of agency she hadn't felt in years. With every name she typed, every piece of information pieced together, she expanded her understanding of herself, rooting deeper into the soil of her lineage. Days turned to sluggish weeks, and Evelyn's determination blossomed like the first shoots of spring. She built a network of contacts, reaching out to old friends of her parents and seeking records that might yield information about the elusive relative. Each reply she received sparked both excitement and anxiety. Clarity slipped through her fingers like grains of sand. Some leads were dead ends, while others illuminated paths filled with blurred memories. Her family's past began to take shape around her, revealing itself not solely through details, but through the emotional resonance attached to each fragment. As she unearthed long-buried stories, she felt herself standing on the cusp of understanding. This process was no longer just about finding a relative, it was about finding herself amidst the tangled roots of her heritage. Yet, every evening, when she scrolled through her notes or stared blankly at her father's reflections, doubt lingered. It was a ghost that whispered in her ear, reminding her of her long history with failure, reminding her how she had learned to keep her dreams at arm's length. But now, she owned a burgeoning awareness of her capacity for growth, fortified by the vigor of the budding vineyard. Each setback she faced while nurturing that land had provided her tools to confront her personal insecurities. It was time to confront the specter of her past. An unexpected push came one night as she jotted down her thoughts, her heart racing at the clarity she felt. Why should she fear reaching out? She took a deep breath and opened her laptop. The cursor blinked like a heartbeat, steady and insistent. With her fingers hovering over the keyboard, she began to draft an email to her unknown relative. This act would define her, a step into the unknown, a confrontation not just of the past but of her own lingering fears of inadequacy. But deep inside, that familiar pang of doubt reared its head again. She paused, questioning if she was indeed prepared for whatever awaited on the other side of this portal. The door into her past stood before her, awaiting a push, while the weight of her decision threatened to encapsulate her once more in the shadows she had fought so hard to escape. With resolve furrowing her brow, she pressed send. The moment felt monumental. It was a line drawn in the sand, a mark of defiance against her fears. As that email vanished into the digital ether, anticipation coursed through her veins, a new tension hanging in the air. Would the response empower her, or would it pull her back into her previous immobility? The clock on the wall ticked, and she knew she had crossed a threshold, one that would alter the course of her journey irrevocably. And as she gazed out at the waning daylight, the question loomed larger than life. What awaited her on the other side of this courageous outreach? Would her choice fortify her, or fracture the stride she had already made? Evelyn's heart raced as she sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the blank screen in front of her. The lingering tension of having hit send on that email tugged at her insides, transforming her anticipation into a chaotic stew of excitement and dread. Each shadow in the room seemed to mimic her own sense of foreboding, as if the very space around her recognized the weight of her decision. She forced herself to rise, a ritual that felt grounded in the remnants of her strength. Moving toward the kitchen, she entered the comforting embrace of routine, the familiar aroma of fresh coffee enveloping her. Each sip was a reminder that moments of clarity often arose amid the mundane acts of life. As the warmth spread through her, Evelyn contemplated the connections she had made over the past weeks. Her cell phone hummed, and the quick vibration startled her, the screen illuminated with a message from an unknown number. "Hi Evelyn, this is Anna. I received your email." Her breath caught, and for a moment, reality wavered around her. She stared at the screen, the name precipitating a rush of emotion. Anna was her distant relative, potentially the key to unlocking layers of her family's secluded history. A wave of rebellious courage surged, urging her to respond immediately. Each finger tap echoed with uncertainty, a stark contrast to the confidence she had fortified in the past weeks. "Nice to meet you, Anna. Thank you for reaching out." It felt trivial, yet her hesitation was suffocating, as if she were attempting to walk on a tightrope between vulnerability and connection. After sending a brief response, the waiting began. Her mind darted between optimism and spiraling thoughts of rejection. Would Anna view her as an intruder in a historical tapestry they shared, or a hopeful seeker yearning for belonging? Suddenly, the deceptive tranquility of her small house felt stifling, and she resolved to step outside. As her feet touched the cool earth of the vineyard, each uneven step seemed to mirror the internal unraveling of her feelings. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows through the rows of grapevines, reflecting her journey. The goal of uncovering the past became intertwined with the act of nurturing her own growth. Each vine's struggle to rise from the soil resonated within her. She too had fought against decay, yearning for light and truth. Her phone buzzed again, shattering the silence around her. The brief thrill of expectation tightened her stomach. "I'd love to meet. How about coffee tomorrow?" The prospect of an in-person meeting sent a cascade of adrenaline through her veins. A visceral tug-of-war ensued. She wanted to embrace this opportunity, but felt the familiar cloak of doubt wrapped around her. What if she was ill-prepared for what Anna represented? What if the encounter led her to dark corners she wasn't ready to face? Yet this was a chance to deepen her own understanding, to reclaim narratives lost in the passage of generations. Evoking the strength of her commitment to the vineyard, she made a choice. "Tomorrow sounds perfect," she typed back, each word laden with both trepidation and resolve. As night enveloped the land, Evelyn's mind raced through scenarios. She knew every conversation had the power to change lives. What understanding awaited her in Anna's account of their shared lineage? Each possibility felt like a door standing ajar in a world yet unexplored, each waiting to be opened. In her heart, uncertainty wrestled with hope, propelling her forward. She sank deep into her thoughts, envisioning the forthcoming encounter as a chance not just to connect with family, but to peel back layers of herself that remained shrouded in obscurity. As she drifted into a restless sleep, the question hung thick in the air. What revelations would this connection bring? Would she unearth familial bonds that would kindle her own flame of purpose, or would it challenge her to confront truths she had avoided for too long? Tomorrow held answers, and with that knowledge came both fear and exhilaration, intertwining like vines in the earth. Morning light crept through the curtains as Evelyn awoke, the weight of the previous day's anticipation pressing heavy on her chest. The conversation with Anna hovered over her like a fog, unpredictably dense and laden with possibility. When she glanced at the clock, she realized that time was inching forward, and she had little time to prepare for their meeting. Rushing through her morning routine, every action felt surreal, almost as if she were a character in someone else's story. Standing before the bathroom mirror, her reflection revealed a mix of determination and vulnerability. She practiced her greeting aloud, but the authenticity of her voice evaded her. Was she merely a curious stranger, or did she truly deserve to uncover the legacy Anna held? The reflection offered no answers, only doubts mixed with the flicker of optimism that had taken root since she had summoned the courage to reach out. The clinking of her coffee mug against the counter became an unexpected rhythm, matching the rapid beating of her heart. She poured the dark brew, but the taste was bitter against her fear. Could she face the facets of her family history without feeling overwhelmed? What skeletons might Anna unveil? The uncertainties nagged at her, winding tighter than the vines she tended each day. By mid-morning, Evelyn drove towards the cafe, sunlight spilling across the asphalt like liquid gold. With each turn, she replayed scenarios of the meeting in her mind, a montage of laughter, tears, and confessions playing like a movie reel. Yet, the deeper she dove into those thoughts, the more she grappled with an undeniable truth. Her pursuit of family was tied intimately to her identity. She had never fully embraced who she was because she had been too caught up in the familial absences that conditioned her life. Finding a parking spot, she stepped out into the world, and the aroma of roasted coffee beans greeted her like an embrace. It was larger than herself, anchoring her as she navigated through the small crowd. The cafe buzzed with conversation, laughter bubbling over like frothy cappuccinos. Evelyn took a seat by the window, heart racing as she imagined all the stories Anna carried. What would she uncover about their shared past? Would it provide a map for her own progression or become a barrier? As the minutes ticked by, uncertainty wrapped around her like a shroud. Had she made a mistake by seeking this connection? A ping from her phone jolted her thoughts. It was a message from Anna. "I'm here, just arrived, looking forward to meeting you." Evelyn's breath quickened. With a mix of eagerness and dread, she took a sip of her now-cooled coffee, its flavor fading much like her resolve. The narrative she had controlled until now felt as though it was about to shift. Then the door swung open and a figure stepped inside. Anna stood there, scanning the room with a tentative smile. Her presence filled the space with an unfamiliar energy. A small part of Evelyn hesitated, the instinct to retreat battling with the yearning to move forward. Everything hinged on this interaction. As Anna spotted her, a look of recognition crossed her face, one that mirrored the rush of familial connection Evelyn hadn't known she craved. Evelyn's heart raced, ready for whatever revelations lay ahead, but she couldn't shake the feeling that it was not just their meeting that mattered. This moment could redefine her very existence. Just as Anna approached, Evelyn felt a surge of adrenaline. This meeting wasn't merely about uncovering their lineage, it was about a reckoning with herself. Could she accept everything that came with exploring who she was? The impending exploration loomed ahead, laden with potential and the stark unknown. Would she find solace in discovering her ancestry, or be confronted with aspects of herself she was not ready to face? As their eyes locked, the tension thickened, marking the point of no return, and Evelyn realized the moment to confront the shadows of her past had finally arrived. Evelyn's pulse quickened as Anna approached, each step echoing in her mind like the crash of waves against the shore. The familiar tension between desire and fear twisted in her stomach. Anna settled into the chair across from her, their shared blood forging an immediate yet tentative bond. The cafe atmosphere faded into a distant hum, replaced by the electric charge of the moment. "Hi, Evelyn," Anna began, her voice soft yet resonant. The warmth in her tone drew Evelyn in, but the weight of potential revelations loomed over them. Conversation flickered at the edges, but Evelyn's mind was a tumult of expectations and imaginations. "Evelyn, I know this is a lot to digest," Anna continued, peering into her eyes with an intensity that stirred dormant emotions. "I've been thinking about how to start. What would you like to know?" Evelyn hesitated. The corners of her mind swarmed with questions, but a visceral instinct sent a jolt of apprehension through her. Would she drown in the details, or would they buoy her towards self-discovery? "Can you tell me about our family? What was my father's life like?" The question slipped from her lips, heavy with the longing for connection mingled with the fear of the truth. Anna nodded, her gaze drifting momentarily as though collecting the memories from the air around them. "He was complicated. I can share stories, but it won't be all roses. There are shadows, Evelyn. Shadows that linger in our family history." Each revelation was a ticket into the labyrinth of her identity. As Anna spoke, weaving tales of shared relatives, old houses, and forgotten traditions, Evelyn felt the strands of her past pulling together in unexpected ways. But each mention of struggle tangled with the newfound understanding. Their family was not merely a repository of pain, but a tapestry of resilience and strength that had flourished against the odds. Questions surged like a tidal wave. Why did he leave? Why didn't I know about any of this? The anger ignited within her, and she struggled to contain it. How could the past create such a chasm of silence that she'd been left to bridge alone? Anna exhaled slowly, another layer of empathy woven into her voice. "He wanted to protect you, but he also didn't know how to confront his own demons. You could say he was defending you from the truths that haunted him." A pang of understanding gripped Evelyn, the realization that perhaps her father's isolation mirrored her own. Had she been subconsciously repeating his actions, shielding herself from connections, building walls so high that they blocked the light? "Evelyn, what you're feeling is a reflection," Anna said softly. The chill of vulnerability reminded her of how she had always felt like a stranger in her own life, a guest in a world she didn't fully belong to, afraid to claim her inheritance. The walls around her convictions started to erode. As Anna delved deeper into their shared history, Evelyn felt the stirrings of empowerment, her innate desire for growth igniting, a slow-burning determination that urged her to reclaim her identity, one shaded with complexity and authenticity. But then, the conversation shifted as Anna revealed a family secret that had previously been hidden, a secret that threatened to alter everything Evelyn thought she knew. Her heart constricted. The revelations were slick with anxiety, promising a future that teetered on the edge of her control. What if the truth leads me somewhere I'm not ready to go? The question clawed at Evelyn's throat. Anna leaned closer, the shared bond charged with urgency. But what if it sets you free? The weight of the moment pressed down on Evelyn, the hum of the cafe fading into a backdrop of uncertainty and anticipation. She sat on the precipice of self-discovery. The nostalgia of the past battled against the fear of what lay ahead, and Evelyn felt the exhilaration of the unknown rise within her. The stakes had raised, forcing her to confront everything she had been running from. Would she embrace the chaos of truth, or would she retreat once more into solitude? Anna's look was patient but insistent, an invitation to step into the light of her own history. As the next revelation dangled tantalizingly overhead, the narrative of her life hung in the balance. Could she summon the courage to embrace this pivotal juncture? Understanding awaited, but so did the shadows of doubt. Just then, the door swung open, and a chill rushed through the cafe. Evelyn felt a shift in energy, a warning that their conversation was far from over. Something outside threatened to intrude, a weighty reminder of everything still left unresolved. The moment demanded a decision, a commitment to plow through the darkness and finally seek the truth she had long buried. Evelyn's gaze flicked to the door, her heart racing at the sound of the bell, jarring her from the depths of reflection. A shiver rippled through her as she instinctively leaned closer to Anna, searching for reassurance in the familiar presence across from her. Yet that reassurance felt tenuous, a mere whisper against the rising storm within her. "What was that about?" she whispered, nodding toward the door as she drew her arms tighter across her chest. Anna's brow furrowed, and she swallowed, contemplative. "It's as if the world is pressing in, isn't it? Sometimes it feels easier to hide than to face what's out there." Evelyn's thoughts churned. The shadows of her father's choices loomed large, a legacy of isolation she had internalized. The secrets Anna was unraveling tugged on her heart, wrapping around her fear with a vice-like grip. She was accustomed to secrecy and silence. They had been her companions for so long. But now, she stood before the potential of truth. The raw ache of it called to her, more urgent than ever. "You must think I'm weak," she said suddenly, her voice trembling with a mix of vulnerability and anger. "I've spent years shunning everything, my connections, my history. I carved out my own lonely path, thinking it was strength." Anna reached across the table, her fingertips grazing Evelyn's. "This isn't about weakness. It's a response to hurt, to betrayal. Remember, understanding yourself is the bravest act of all. Your father's choices might have shaped who you are, but they don't define your future." Evelyn nodded, but uncertainty rooted her to the spot. Her mind swung like a pendulum between the stories Anna shared, the tales of family resilience tangled with unresolved pain. What if I'm not ready to uncover the truth? What if I discover something that changes everything? "Then you'll deal with it," Anna replied, her voice steady, as if forging a path through the haze that surrounded Evelyn. "You're stronger than you realize. Perhaps it's time to stop carrying the weight of fear alone." Those words reverberated in Evelyn's mind like a beacon. Could she truly step forward without the constant dread of past burdens bearing down on her? The thought of lifting her head above the water's surface filled her with a sense of exhilaration mixed with dread. And just as she began to think there might be a way through the tumult, the cafe door opened again, this time wider, letting in a gust of cold air that rattled the light fixtures. Evelyn's heart skipped a beat. A figure entered, unfamiliar, yet commanding. He exuded an aura of authority that seemed to freeze her in place. She could hardly process what she was seeing when she caught a glimpse of his face. A heartbreakingly familiar silhouette that echoed through her memories as if the universe conspired to unravel her carefully woven cocoon of ignorance. Anna turned at the noise, her expression shifting from curiosity to shock. "Oh no," she breathed, her grip tightening on Evelyn's hand. For a moment, the world narrowed around Evelyn, the noise of the cafe dulled to a muffled thrum. The fear which had plagued her now materialized into something tangible, an immediate confrontation with everything she had long avoided. "Is that—" Evelyn's voice faltered, disbelief coursing through her. Before she could finish, the figure's eyes locked onto hers, igniting a cascade of emotions within her. Anger, confusion, the flickering embers of recognition. Who was this man, and how did he fit into the tapestry Anna had begun to reveal? As memories she had buried started to claw their way up toward the surface, Evelyn felt the precipice beneath her shift. This encounter threatened to topple her entire understanding of her identity, and yet there lingered an unquenchable flame of determination deep within her. With the revelatory essence of this moment thickening the air, she knew the time had come to confront not only her past, but also the truth of her family's legacy, and perhaps the darkness that had clouded her future. What would this man's arrival signify? Would he bring clarity, or would he shatter whatever fragile foundation she had begun to construct? The cafe buzzed with a renewed energy, holding its breath as the door swung shut behind him, sealing them in a moment rich with potential and peril. Caught between worlds, Evelyn's heart raced as she prepared to dive into the heart of her family's secret. a choice made in a matter of seconds that would redefine everything she had ever known. Evelyn's pulse quickened as the man approached, each step echoing with the gravity of his presence. The cafe, the dim lighting, the comforting hum, faded into a backdrop of uncertainty. Here was a figure from her past, one she had thought irrevocably closed. And now he stood, an unexpected door ajar, inviting her to either flee or confront what lay behind it. "Evelyn," he said, his voice a low rumble, both foreign and achingly familiar. The name hung in the air, forking a path in her consciousness, forcing her to confront years of decisions rooted in avoidance. She struggled to align the memories swirling within her mind. The fleeting images of laughter and heartbreak, warmth and betrayal, all collided in a chaotic whirlwind. Before she could speak, Anna's anxious grip tightened around her hand. "Do you want me to leave?" The concern in Anna's voice was a lifeline, a reminder that she wasn't alone in this upheaval, yet it brought with it the bitter taste of additional choice. Would evacuation allow her to protect her fragile resolve, or would it suspend her between moments of truth? Evelyn met the man's gaze, searching for the meaning in his expression. Underneath the initial shock, she felt a stirring of anger. "What are you doing here?" Her voice trembled, betrayal lining the words. "I came to talk," he replied, his brow furrowing as if her reaction had taken him off guard. "I didn't know where else to find you." There was a hint of vulnerability in his tone, a stark contrast to the authority she had felt on his entrance. It made her pulse quicken further. Was he truly here to explain, or was this an act of manipulation? She shook her head, frantically searching for words. How could he possibly think she'd trust him now, after all those years of silence? The storm within her raged on, chastising the vulnerabilities she had routinely buried. "You had your chance, and you walked away." His eyes softened, as if he were trying to carve a bridge to her side of the chasm their past had carved. "I made mistakes, Evelyn. That's why I'm here. I need you to listen." A weight settled on her shoulders, a familiar heaviness telling her the right path would come at a cost. This conversation could break her open further, unraveling everything if his words to be anything like the accusations of her youth. But wouldn't avoiding confrontation itself be a continuation of her isolation? "And what makes you think I want to hear anything you have to say?" "Because it's about your father," he replied, firing off a spark of instinctive curiosity within her. She was no longer just the daughter of a man who had deserted her. She was now faced with the echoing impacts of that absence, and whatever truth he held might finally fill the gaps in her understanding. The thought was both enticing and terrifying. Anna interjected, reading the turmoil inching across Evelyn's features. "Evelyn, this could be an opportunity. You deserve to learn the truth." Her heart fluttered between fear and determination. The familiarity of his face had jolted her into a corner where she could either maintain her fabricated reality or venture into a raw confrontation. Evelyn inhaled deeply, her breath steadied, emboldened by Anna's presence. "Fine, talk." As the word escaped her lips, the air shifted, the stakes elevated from mere personal existence to the possibility of unraveling the family tapestry she had hesitated to confront. But he hesitated, as if weighing the significance of his next words. Adjusting his posture, he leaned subtly toward her, showing he meant every syllable that would follow. "Your father wasn't the man you think he was, and I can prove it." Her mind raced, an undeniable fear creeping in, laced with anticipation. What revelations could hold both the power to liberate her and imprison her deeper into the legacy she held in distaste? Evelyn felt the world around her tighten into focus, clenching in anticipation of the truths that were about to surface. Here, on the precipice of discovery, she then wondered if confronting this storm would ultimately lead to moments of greater understanding or deeper ruin. And as their eyes locked, she knew she could no longer hide from the ghosts of her past. What awaited her might fracture the remnants of her fears or ignite her into a new phase of being, one intertwined with both grief and the clarity she had long sought. Would the truth redeem her path, or would it throw her deeper into turmoil, making her doubt every foundation she had attempted to build? The answer was just within reach, dangling like a ripe fruit waiting to be plucked. Evelyn's heart thudded in her chest as she prepared for the storm of secrets about to unfurl. The cafe atmosphere, once warm and inviting, transformed into a stark arena where past and present collided. She forced herself to look at him, filtering through the emotional detritus of years gone by. "What do you mean my father wasn't who I thought he was?" "I know how that sounds," he replied, an earnestness in his eyes that made her pulse race. "But he had a life you never knew about, choices that changed everything, choices that might explain why he left." Each word scraped against her composure, stirring in her a cocktail of fury and intrigue. She had spent so long erecting walls around the pain of abandonment. Now, with each revelation, those walls wobbled. The fragile scaffolding of her identity threatened to crumble under the weight of this newfound uncertainty. "Why should I believe you?" she asked, her voice sharper than intended. "You vanished without a word, and now you expect me to just listen?" His brow knit, and for a moment he appeared vulnerable, like a man stripped of his armor. "I know I don't deserve your trust, but I can't change the past. All I can do is give you the truth if you want it." Her mind raced, walking the precipice between skepticism and curiosity. The truth could unravel her tightly wound narrative, reconstructing the very fabric of her memories. But if it was a deception, what then? Would she be left reeling in a disorienting void of trust, ruptured once again? "Tell me," she prompted, the crack in her armor widening, displaying an eagerness she hadn't anticipated. "What do you have to say?" He took a deep breath, drawing in the moment with an intensity that palpable tension thickened. "Your father was involved in something much larger than himself, something dangerous. He had enemies, and it wasn't just personal. This is why he disappeared. It wasn't just a matter of escape." Evelyn shifted in her seat, feeling the room tilt as his words sank in, every syllable weighted with implications. "What kind of enemies? What did he do?" "I can't disclose everything now. Trust me, it's more complicated. But I promise, Evelyn, everything he did, every choice he made, led him away from you to protect you. And I know, deep down, you want to know what he tried to shield you from." She clenched her fists, wrestling with the tempest inside. Was he telling the truth? She wanted to embrace each word, to believe there were noble intentions behind her father's abandonment. Yet a voice echoed from the recesses of her mind, pressing her to guard her heart against yet another possibility of betrayal. "Why should I care about his reasoning?" she whispered, fury giving way to deep-seated confusion. "He hurt me. He left me without an explanation. That alone is unforgivable." "Because this could give you a piece of him back. If you want it, there's more at stake than just resentment. His story may finally bring you clarity, a chance to understand instead of always questioning." For the first time since their encounter began, a flicker of hope surfaced among the shadows of her despair. She had spent years constructing her life around that void, and now it risked shattering. Something awakened within her, an insatiable urge to uncover the truth, no matter how ugly it might be. "All right," Evelyn said, determination hardening her resolve. "I'll listen, but if I find you're lying—" He raised a hand, interrupting her. "I won't, I promise. Just give me one chance to explain everything." As he prepared to speak again, her mind churned with the revelations she might encounter. Each shift in her perception widened the chasm of her reality, unraveling the tenacious grip on her past that had kept her bound. What would she uncover in the secret life of the man who had shaped her existence from afar? And at what cost would the truth come to light? Evelyn braced herself for what could very well be the beginning of a journey into unfamiliar territory, where every step might lead to further questions. Questions she might not be ready to confront? But in that instant, with Anna's supportive grip still holding her hand firmly, she realized she couldn't turn back now. The door to her past was finally ajar, and she cared less about what lay on the other side. Rather, she needed to know what it would mean for her future. As he started to unfold his narrative, the cafe around them morphed into a world of possibility, suspended in the balance of resolution and turmoil. What lay behind that door could change everything. Her understanding, her purpose, her very identity. But Evelyn knew, deep down, the moment of truth had finally arrived, and it might just alter the very foundations of her reluctant acceptance of a simplistic past she thought she understood. Evelyn sat in the cafe, the echoes of the bustling crowd fading into the background as the man across from her began to reveal the secrets of her father's life. Each word was meticulously chosen, unspooling layers of complexity she had never anticipated. With every revelation, Evelyn felt threads of understanding weave through the fabric of her existence, binding her closer to the legacy she had spent years battling against. "The choices he made," he said, holding her gaze, "were meant to shield you, to keep you safe from a dark past. Your father was entangled in matters far beyond what you imagined. He had connections, obligations that haunted him, decisions made under pressure to protect the family you never realized you had." Evelyn's heart raced. It was a revelation she had sought, a truth that made the familiar struggle resonate in unexpected ways. She had grappled with feelings of abandonment, but now those feelings intertwined with a new sense of responsibility. Did understanding her father's complexities render her own battles with solitude less daunting? She had taken steps toward revitalizing the ranch, to carve out her own identity, and now she realized her father's shadow had cast its weight over every decision she made. "So you're telling me he sacrificed everything to distance himself from danger?" she asked, incredulous. Doubt still swirled, but the gravity of his story stirred something within her. Did she owe it to him to explore the truth, to step into the light that had been obscured for so long? He nodded solemnly. "Your father's legacy isn't merely one of disappearance, it's a cautionary tale of self-preservation. In trying to protect you, he left you a fractured legacy, a disconnect that you've felt all your life." Evelyn held back tears, grappling with a burgeoning sense of compassion. The years wasted in resentment felt heavy now, a burden of misunderstanding that had aged her spirit prematurely. The shadows of her past began to dissolve. Maybe, just maybe, she could step beyond the confines they had grasped her within. As Anna observed quietly, her expression shifted from concern to encouragement. This was a pivotal moment, a juncture in Evelyn's journey toward reclaiming her narrative. She drew strength from the knowledge that she could reshape her understanding of the past and shift the trajectory of her future. "I want to learn," Evelyn declared, determination threading through her voice like fresh vines creeping through the earth. "Tell me everything. I need to understand. How did he end up like this? And what am I meant to do with this knowledge?" With that simple act of vulnerability, a shift occurred. The conversation morphed from one burdened by darkness to a dialogue drenched in possibility. He detailed the circumstances that had entwined her father's life in secrecy, and the more Evelyn learned, the more she uncovered her own resilience. Here was a man who had been lost, not by choice, but by circumstance, a reflection of her own feelings of entrapment. Each revelation forged a newfound purpose in Evelyn's heart. She could no longer reside solely in sorrow, but had to embrace the potential for healing that lay ahead. The weight of anger that had anchored her in place began to lift, replaced by a compelling energy dedicated to rediscovery and remembrance. "Your father is still your father," he urged, his voice low yet insistent. "He loved you from a distance. Learn his truths and forge your own connection with who he was. You can take ownership of his legacy in your own terms, in your way." "I can?" she whispered, the enormity of the suggestion igniting flames of hope within her. Could she really redefine the outcome of her life, crafting something beautiful from a past steeped in shadows of insecurity? Yes, she could. Suddenly, the abandoned ranch didn't look desolate anymore. It became a canvas filled with potentiality, a vineyard that could flourish not just in the soil, but in the stories that now surrounded it, a fusion of knowledge and growth. "I'll do it," she declared firmly, the words cementing her newfound resolve. "I will reclaim this land and my father's legacy. This place deserves to thrive just as I do." With each passing moment, dignity resurfaced. The road ahead wouldn't be seamless, but she embraced the infinite possibilities of self-discovery and redemption. As the conversation drew to a close, the cafe buzzed with life. A symphony of laughter and connection that reminded her of the richness of human experience. She felt a surge of gratitude wash over her, the shadows no longer tinged with bitterness, but rather with clarity. The journey to reconnect with herself and her heritage had just begun, but she stepped forward strengthened by newfound understanding. And as she left the cafe, she felt a resolute confidence that she had the power to achieve her goals, to prove not just to herself but to the legacy of her father that she was worthy of belonging. The past no longer chained her. Instead, it became a guiding light leading her toward tangible achievements. Evelyn was no longer merely the daughter of a man who had vanished. She was a woman on the rise, ready to transform dreams into reality. You need to subscribe now to our channel to capture the essence of incredible personal journeys and never miss exclusive emotional stories again. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others discover their paths to overcoming their struggles. Comment your reactions about Evelyn's journey and the theories you built along the way. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion and find their own empowerment.